So I am finally back at it after several technical difficulties, including some personal issues. I made a video about that if you'd like to check that out. If you have any suggestions in terms of what I could do regarding some of those technical difficulties that I described, please make sure you leave a comment. I'd love to troubleshoot some of these issues. Right now, the setup I'm using is not really what I want, which isn't the end of the world, but I did make an investment in certain things, so I would like for them to be able to work. Anyways, today's video is about tips for saving money on groceries. Most of these I did not come up with myself. These are things that I've just been advised on over the years and have applied and I've just found to be super, super helpful. And I definitely wish I knew about and started using these tips a lot sooner. Tip number one is to take a full inventory before you even start making your grocery list. And this is one that for a long time I kind of felt like I was applying, but for me personally, I would just check the fridge and the freezer. I would completely forget to check the pantry. Or one day I'd check the pantry and I'd forget to check the freezer. You really need to go to every single area in your house where you are holding these items to make sure you know exactly what you have. Another good example would be household products. I might separate it receipt-wise in terms of how I document my expenses, but I typically get my household products, cleaners, toilet paper, paper towels, things like that, when I do my grocery shopping. But when I was making my list, I would often forget to check under the kitchen sink and under the bathroom sink to make sure I knew exactly what products I had on hand. The main problem with not taking a proper inventory first is that you're going out and you're buying something you actually did not need to restock just yet. And that money could have gone towards something else. Or vice versa could be true as well. Maybe there's something you are out of stock, you forgot to check that space, you come home from your trip and you realize, oh crap, I meant to get X, Y, or Z and I just forgot. In my case, I would typically go out and buy things that I already had in the house and was not aware I had because I did not do a proper inventory. Tip number two is to plan your meals. Now on this one, I will say I do not always follow this exactly, or maybe I'm just not very good at it. So basically, I will make a list of what items I want to have, but I don't assign them to a day. I don't assign them to lunch or dinner. It's kind of, these are just the meals I want available to me throughout the week. I would like to get much, much, much better with meal planning. I don't believe you need to have a meal assigned to every specific meal and day, but I do think you need to know what you want available for whatever period that grocery trip is supposed to cover. And for my case, I'm not a very good cook, but I am constantly forgetting an ingredient. So I'll go to make my meal and it's, oh crap, I got all these other ingredients, but I forgot this one thing. So now I have to pick something else. And the problem with putting off what you wanted to cook for that week often leads to just food being wasted. So whether you're following specific recipes or not, whether you are assigning meals to particular days or not, I do think you need to take your time to sit down and plan out what meals you want available to you. Honestly, planning ahead so that you can properly meal prep the night before makes it easier for a lot of people. It really kind of just depends on what your lifestyle looks like, but it can take a lot of stress off of you if you don't have to go through your day thinking about every single meal and having to make that decision in the moment. Number three, check the app or website for available deals. This one is super important. If you are not taking advantage of sales that are available to you, then what are you even doing? This is such a basic thing that you can do to save more money on your groceries. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you're going to look at the website and be disappointed with the deals, or you're going to have to shop somewhere else that week, or whatever. Like, it's not always going to be what you want. For me, for example, I am trying to switch to a bit of a healthier diet, specifically an anti-inflammatory diet. And I gotta say, it would be a lot easier for me if I would just stick with processed foods, because a lot of times that's where the deals are. Checking for deals ahead of time was something I've always done, but for a while there I was definitely not very good at it. I would not really apply it to my list, or I would only scroll past a couple of items, see that they weren't really things that I would buy, instead of looking at the complete list of what was available for deals. So I've gotten a lot better at actually applying this to making my grocery list. I kind of have an idea of what I want my grocery list to look like before I actually start writing it down. So don't get me wrong, I'm not going to change that entire plan, change that entire list based on a couple of deals that are available, but I am going to take it into account. Sometimes there might be a deal that's specific to a particular brand. Okay, I usually buy this brand, it's a little more expensive anyways. This week there's this available deal, so I'll buy this brand this week. Little changes like that will add up. Tip number four kind of goes hand in hand with this, but check for cashback offers. There are plenty of cashback options out there. There's Ibotta, there's Rakuten, there's sometimes through Fetch, there are offers where you get a bunch more points back if you buy certain items. But most rewards programs will offer some type of occasional cashback deal as well. I've gotten several cashback deals at Target recently. Basically, it was like spend X amount of money and you get $10 cash back. Now, that's cash back for Target, so it might not be cash back in my pocket, but it's still money I can save on my next trip to Target. I will likely be taking y'all on my next trip to Target because there will be plenty of gift cards I'll be using and plenty of ways to save. So stay tuned for that. Tip number 5 is to consider buying in bulk. So if you are like me, if you are a single person and you don't have kids, it's kind of easy to go, well, I just need the smallest size, so let me just grab the smallest size. And in some cases that works, but really you should be looking at it on a case-by-case basis. Now, if this is a perishable item, and it would take you 2 weeks to go through, and it's likely only going to really be good for 5 days, then yeah, you probably should not buy that bulk size. But when we're talking about items that are sustainable, dish soaps, laundry detergent, frozen foods, household cleaners, anything that you can use over time without it going bad, you should consider buying in bulk. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. Sometimes buying in bulk is going to be the same price or isn't going to save you enough for it to be worth it. But for me, I've noticed for a lot of things that I buy, if I buy the bigger size, I'm still going to go through it, so I'm getting my money's worth, but I'm spending less per item or per ounce or per pound. An exception for me is milk. So getting a gallon is a better deal in a technical sense than getting a half gallon. But I typically go for a half gallon because I don't utilize enough of it to justify buying a gallon at a time. So that would be an example of something that for me is an exception. But it's definitely worth it when it comes to other items. So I've definitely gone up in size when it comes to laundry detergent and soaps and things like that. I'm just getting what I need to get me through a small amount of time, but I could spend less money per ounce or however it's broken down and get more long-term use out of it. Why wouldn't I do that? Tip number 6 is to buy store brands over name brands. If there is a name brand that you are absolutely in love with at the grocery store and you like getting that particular product every single time, if it's within your budget, I don't think it's a problem. But if you are really struggling, I think you should consider getting the store brand. Now, I will say, some people will be like, oh, the store brand's like the same quality anyways, you're really just paying extra, for that particular name brand. It has a name on it, that's the only reason you're paying a higher price. I would disagree with that based on personal experience. I have found that sometimes when I get the store brand, there's a lot less quality there. That is obviously not true for every single product, but for some of the products that I have really liked from name brands, when I bought the store brand, it just was not the same quality. So for me, I'll kind of pick and choose. With some things, I really don't mind going with the store brand. It's perfectly fine. It's just as good of a product, and I'm saving a little bit of money. On occasion, though, when I'm buying store brand, the quality is just not there. I don't enjoy eating it as much. Then I'm just buying something that I'm not going to use, and then it's wasted. So this tip is really specific to your situation as well as your own personal taste. But in general, you will be saving a bit more money if you buy store brands over name brands at the grocery store. Tip number 7, and this is probably the biggest one for me. I did not realize how big this was, but tip number 7 is do not grocery shop when you are hungry. I have not always been the best at sticking to my grocery list, and the biggest thing that hurt me in terms of not sticking to my list was being hungry when I was grocery shopping. And once I heard this for the first time, it just immediately clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what's wrong with how I'm grocery shopping. Because you're hungry, you're gonna spend more for your meals than what you really need. You're gonna spend more for snacks than what you really need. You stop shopping from your list and you start shopping with your eyes. I'm gonna be honest, I used to pretty much always grocery shop whenever I was hungry, and it would not always be catastrophic, don't get me wrong, but whenever I did that, I would typically be $20 to $30 at least over what I meant to spend. And that's quite a bit extra per grocery trip. Once I made the switch and made sure that I had just had a meal or I had a snack if I just needed a little extra to hold me over before I did my grocery trip, that made such a difference. I was able to stick with my list. I was able to get in and out faster because I'm not browsing and looking for things because I'm feeling hungry. I realized that it's not just about saving my money. It's about getting in and out faster. I'm less distracted. I'm not looking for things to spend money on. So on top of the fact that I am no longer just grabbing things I don't need because I'm hungry, I'm a lot more focused on what I'm doing during that grocery trip. Which brings us to tip number 8, which is stick to your list. Because if you followed these steps so far, you're taking a full inventory, you're planning your meals, you're looking for deals in advance, you're thinking ahead about where you're going to shop. You are doing everything you can to build a grocery list that makes sense. So now that you're in the store, stick to your list. Do not wander, do not reconsider. Any decision making you made regarding what you need at the grocery store should already be done. The only exception to the rule, of course, is if there's something on your list that they are out of and you need to make a last minute decision about a substitution. Something like that is understandable. But beyond that, just focus on your list and nothing else. Tip number 9, plan your trip when you are not rushed. This was another thing that made a massive difference for me once I actually started applying it. Now, if you have a really, really hectic schedule, this one might be a little bit difficult for you to apply. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about managing your schedule. Everyone's situation is different. What's important to people varies a lot in terms of what matters to them schedule-wise. I actually used to have very specific set times when I do my grocery shopping. Now it's pretty much whatever time is convenient for me. I have enough flexibility in my schedule these days that that's something that I can do. When you're rushing, you're less likely to stick to your list. So for example, let's say there's an area I'm trying to get to, there's a whole family there, they're rummaging through everything, that's where something is on my list. Instead of going to the item I planned for because it costs, less than $2, you know what, I'm over here, let me just grab this other item that costs $4.50, whatever. It can have the same effect on me, at least, as when I am grocery shopping when I'm hungry. I'm going to start just looking for things that are more convenient to grab because I need to get in and out, and shopping is just not very convenient for me right now, and I'm running out of time. Anything that really leads to you being distracted while you're trying to do your grocery shopping will lead you to be less likely to stick to your list and stick to your budget and stick to your plan. You don't want to be distracted because you're being rushed. You don't want to be distracted because you're hungry. You just want to be able to get in there, focus on your list, stick to your list, and get out as quickly as possible. The more time you give yourself that doesn't actually need to go towards grocery shopping, the more likely you are to wander and just find other things to spend money on that you don't need to spend money on. And tip number 10 is to store food properly so that food is not being wasted. I think for a long time, I didn't quite correlate wasted food with wasted money. Now, things like meal planning can help you with this as well, but for a long time, I was using really cheap containers that just weren't good enough. Now I use glass, sometimes plastic, but airtight containers to store food properly in my fridge. The items last so much longer, so much less product is being wasted, which leads to me holding on to a little bit more of my money because then next time I go to do my inventory, I still have more food that's usable so that I don't need quite as much on my next list. I think my favorite that I've used is Rubbermaid Brilliance. They have plastic and glass. I use the plastic ones for things that are less important, like things in my pantry or for cat food storage. But the glass airtight containers are perfect in my fridge. There are plenty of brands you can buy. I'm just saying that that's one of the products that I have particularly enjoyed using. I just think it's a very high quality product. So those are my 10 tips for saving money on groceries. If anyone has any ideas of other ways you can save money, I would love to hear your comments. I know that applying these tips made a massive difference in terms of how much I was spending on my groceries, so I hope that you will apply these tips and hopefully they will help you as well.